Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about a fact that more advanced lifters have to accept. And that is that almost all of the strength that we gain once we're no longer novices is going to come from our tissue hypertrophy. You cannot separate size and strength once basic technique and speed and power and everything have been developed. Now, that doesn't mean that that's where we learn to display strength. Right? Displaying strength comes from actually lifting heavy, and it comes from hitting lifts with maximum weight. But that's not the same thing as building your strength. And for any individual person, building strength comes from your muscle mass. That is the only variable in your training that you have control over that will make you stronger. That's it. Everything else is genetic, hormonal, illicit substances, stuff like that. The only thing that you can control is the amount of muscle that you add to your frame. And once you've learned to develop maximum strength with heavy lifts, and you practice singles and you do it regularly, that's it. You don't get any more from the neuromuscular efficiency and coordination end. Right? If you're maxing out all the time, there's nothing more you can do on that end. Every single pound that you're able to add to the bar from that point forward is going to come from hypertrophy. You're going to have to get bigger. And we know that there's a difference between developing strength and building strength, like developing the ability to display it. So building strength through hypertrophy has to be done through workload, whereas in a lifting maximum poundages comes from just simply lifting heavier weights for as few reps as possible, practicing lifting really, really heavy. Now that's most exemplified by a 1 rep max or a single rep. But when you look at the studies that are out there, the stuff like Schoenfeld did where he compared using similar workloads of triples versus 10 rep sets, they both gained the same muscle mass, right? The people in both groups gained the same muscle, but the people who did heavier triples developed better 1 rep max strength. Well, that falls in line perfectly with what we're talking about. That is explained perfectly by what we're discussing. People say, well, what do you mean? Because workload is what builds muscle size. Workload is what builds muscle size. Lifting a heavier weight is what displays strength. So in this case, when workloads were the same, they gained the same muscle, but the people who used heavier weights, i.e. lower reps, were able to display the strength better, which is, again, a product of hypertrophy. And again, it makes sense when you look at it from that perspective. So what I'm telling guys is that when we're out of the novice phase, we're going to have to focus upon training volume. Have to focus on training volume. And that doesn't necessarily mean endless amounts of volume, and I'm not telling you to come in and do 10 sets of 10 on your back squat or your deadlift. In fact, the rules start to change as you get more advanced. You can't do really, really high volumes with your big classic lifts. The lifts that make the novice the biggest and the strongest the quickest, we can't always come in and do huge amounts of volume with. Right? We can't. We sometimes have to put those into the area of our real maximum strength training. And we have to use exercises that we can handle higher volumes of in order to keep getting bigger. In other words, like you're going to see me do some good mornings and stuff here in a bit. Right, do some bunch of good mornings. Because you can't come in and do 5 sets of 10 on the deadlift. When you're at my deadlift strength, you think you're going to do 5 sets of 10 on the deadlift? I don't think so. Because for me, that's going to be over 400 pounds for all those sets. In order for me to get to even close to 10 rep maxes, it's going to be well over 400 pounds. I'm a 600-pound puller. Good morning, I can come in and do 185, 195, 200. Which is easier to recover from, the good morning? Well, it's going to build all those same muscles through the back. It's going to build the hamstrings, the erectors. It's going to build all those things. I can still come in and pull heavy when I need to practice heavy singles. But the point here is that we have to increase training volumes. We have to do more reps, more sets, more volume. And we have to find a way to recover from it. And this is why we run into problems with the drug-free lifter. This is the reason most guys struggle to get big. after they get through the novice phase. Or it takes them forever to reach their potential, right? We'll talk about those high fat free mass indexes. We'll talk about guys, who are lean, like 25, for most guys being close to the limit for guys with good genetics. But even a 24, how many guys out there struggle to even hit a 24 fat free mass index? Why do we see such massive diminished returns with every year of lifting? Because guys are not getting sufficient training volume and tension in. They're not getting good training. Because their idea of hypertrophy training is to just do a bro split with an arm day and a chest day and a bunch of cable machines. And they might be doing what we were talking about here. They might be doing a system where they're picking exercises they can recover from and get a bunch of volume. But they also don't hit enough muscle groups. Right? They focus on really small exercises. The big exercises that they do, they oftentimes just do them to exhaustion, inappropriate volumes. They can't do them frequently enough. And then they pick really small exercises. And again, they might be getting sufficient stimulus in one training session, but they can only do it once a week. Well, that's a problem. If your quads are only getting trained once a week, or your chest is only getting trained once a week, or your lats once a week, you're not going to get as big. It's going to take you twice as many years to reach your size potential, because that's not sufficient muscle growth time. Then we have the problem of the guys who are going to do the higher frequency. They get caught into the effective novice training, which is, doing a full body like 3 days a week, focusing on the big lifts, because that will maximize your growth in the first year in the gym, right? Linear progressive overload on the big barbell movements and doing nothing else really, it'll maximize your size in the first year in the gym. In fact, studies generally show that even adding curls doesn't even make your biceps grow faster for a novice. Adding tricep extensions doesn't even make your arms grow faster for a novice. It doesn't. So studies confirm. Just doing the big lifts with progressive overload will maximize your size. It's not going to work as you get more advanced. And the reason is you're now strong enough to push poundages that you're going to flounder with. They're going to exhaust you very, very quickly. You're going to have a lot of muscles that are then lagging. You have a lot of muscle groups lagging, and you're going to find that you can't get sufficient volume in, because you need upwards of 10 quality sets for a muscle in a training session to grow. As you start to get more advanced, you're going to need 10, 12 really good sets. You're not going to get that with a barbell squat. And you're going to be so exhausted that you're not going to be able to reach that for a lot of your muscles. A lot of your muscle groups are not going to reach their minimum effective volume to grow. And you're going to keep chasing poundages on the bar as the main driver of hypertrophy. Well, really, that shouldn't be where we're getting our volume. We should be getting it from supplemental lifts. It's what you're going to have to do if you get more advanced. Otherwise, you're going to stall. You're going to stop growing. You're going to be stuck at a 450 deadlift. You'll be stuck at a 275 bench press. And I get plenty of clients like that, because they followed the rules for the novice, those things that work great. Or you get people who just started with the goofy bro bodybuilding, and the same thing, they struggle to get big. And they're still tiny and weak. They end up with muscle imbalances in the other direction. Those guys, because they're getting a lack of volume on the big muscle groups, they might have some pecs and shoulders and arms. They don't have hamstrings, they don't have lats, they don't have erectors. They turn around and see them from behind, and there's nothing there. But the reality is, as we get more advanced, we're going to have to do higher and higher volumes of training on supplemental exercises. We're going to have to pick and choose our volumes very carefully on our big classic lifts. And we understand at that point that the classic lifts are no longer our primary muscle builders always. They contribute. They're where we display strength. The exercises that build size and strength for the novice are where we display strength for the advanced lifter. Where we practice our technique, we learn to move maximum weight. We've got to use all the other stuff to fill in the gaps. We've got to use our tricep extensions, our overhead pressing, our glute ham raises, our good mornings, our shrugs, our tricep extensions, all of these things have to be used, and they've got to be used with a lot of volume. And we've got to be looking at not just how much volume can I do, but what exercises can I pick that will let me do 50% more volume and recover from it, because it's less taxing to certain parts of the system, right? We need to be looking at things like our stimulus to fatigue ratios. Because if you want to get really big and you want to reach your maximum size and strength potential, you're going to have to do very, very large volumes of training, and that's a simple reality. And I'm not talking about the novice lifter here. I'm talking about those of you who got a couple of years of training under your belt. You're going to have to do it. Otherwise, you're never going to reach your potential. You're just not. This is what you have to do. We have to start looking at things like minimum effective volume, maximum recoverable volume, and we have to push those limits of those things. We have to build work capacity. We have to build recovery. And we can deny that all we want, but guys, the truth is you are going to reach a strength plateau as a lifter. You will reach a strength plateau and you will stop getting stronger if you do not understand this. And that's it. You'll be done. You'll get to whatever your lift is going to be, your 300 bench or your 475 deadlift, and that is where you're going to stay for the rest of your life until you understand this. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.